So a very good evening, afternoon, or morning to everyone who's joining with us today, and welcome all of you to the presentation of Literature Review of Authentic Youth Participation in Monitoring and Evaluation. So hope you all are having a good day and enjoying the moment of Youth in Evaluation Week. As you all know, Youth in Evaluation Week started yesterday with the wonderful inauguration ceremony. Youth in Evaluation Week is a 5-day-long program convened by Eval for Action Advocacy Campaign, its regional partners, and Evaluate Global Network, aiming to be an inclusive and intergenerational gathering of young and emerging evaluators and, of course, the global evaluation community. It primarily focuses on advancing the meaningful engagement of youth in evaluation. So going forward with this moment, European Evaluation Society and Asia Pacific Evaluation Association conducted literature review on authentic youth participation in monitoring and evaluation. Under this study, a review of 20 years long of publication was done to identify examples on how youth have been involved in monitoring and evaluation cycle. Next slide, please. So I'm Hasiti Samarasinghe, co-leader of Evaluate Asia and lead of Asia Pacific Communications Hub, and today I will be your moderator. So before moving on to the production, we have a few production reminders. Please keep your microphone muted while our presenters are presenting, to avoid any sort of bandwidth problems as well. So please stay muted and switch off your videos. And this is going to be really engaging event or like 1 hour. So towards the end, you can, of course, unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you have. So let's get to know today's presenters. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we have our first presenter, Ramdika Dimel. So Ramdika is an independent evaluation consultant and a researcher. He's a co-founder and former co-leader of Evaluate Asia and Evaluate Sri Lanka. And currently, he's serving as the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association Manager. Next slide, please. Next, we have Raquel Santiago Barrio. Raquel is a certified monitoring and evaluation and training specialist residing in East Africa. She's specialized in participatory training, evaluation capacity building, and development programs, which are focused on gender equity and health rights. She is currently a member of European Evaluation Society and Evaluation Society of Kenya. Next slide, please. So we have here Taruna Gupta. Unfortunately, due to unavoidable circumstances, she can't participate today. But of course, we as a team, we want to acknowledge her contribution by designing this study and all. So I'll give you a quick introduction to her as well, even though she is not here. So Taruna is an independent evaluator who's interested in people and planet, and she also advocates for including the youth's voices in decision-making that influences their lives. She is the Secretary General of the European Evaluation Society, a council member of the International Evaluation Academy, and the former Secretariat of Evaluate Global Network. So with that, I'm passing the floor to Ramdika to continue with the presentation. Ramdika, over to you.
Thanks, Hasiti. Can you all hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
First, to get started, would like to thank all the researchers that was part of this study. So as you can see from the slide, the lead researcher and who designed this study and got this collaboration between EES and APEA going is Taruna Gupta. Unfortunately, she's not here today. And the supporting researchers for this study were Raquel Santiago and Ling Hong. And the team that did the help with the literature review included me, Hasiti Samarisinghe, our moderator, Leah Crossetti, and Madhukaliyana Gamage, who is in the production team today. And we had a literature search team. Also would like to thank them, which consisted of Amanda Motorshed, Chris from Evaluate Australia, Christina Kiribilis from EES, and Tashi Denda from Evaluate Bhutan. And also our communication support for this event and this study was given by Dorothy May Albiento. So we would like to thank all of them. And also finally, we hope the participants from this study can gain valuable knowledge and insights on authentic youth participation on MNE. Next slide, please. So our study was based on using the MNE cycle. As you can see, the monitoring and evaluation cycle, as you can see from the slides. So our study looked into the three different phases in the MNE cycle, which we looked at: design and planning, monitoring and evaluation. So as you know, planning and monitoring and evaluation come together as result-based management. And according to the UNDP handbook, result-based management is defined as a broad management strategy aimed at achieving improved performance and demonstrable results. So good result-based management is an ongoing process. So as you know, it means that there is constant feedback, learning and improving. And in terms of monitoring, it's also an ongoing process. The lessons from monitoring are discussed periodically and used to inform actions and decisions. On the other hand, if we define evaluation should be done from a programmatic improvements while the program is still ongoing, and also inform the planning of new programs. This ongoing process of doing, learning and improving is what is referred to as the MNE cycle, as you can see on this slide. So we use this to base our study and literature review. Next slide. So how have we defined youth for this study? So there are some definitions that we found. So as currently there are about 1.8 billion young people in the world. So and that's why this Youth in Evaluation Week is very important, and that's why we decided to do this study. So this is the largest youth cohort in history right now. And then the Convention on Rights of Child defines children as all human beings under the age of 18. Generally, the UN agencies define young people as between 10 and 24. Based on our study and the case studies we looked at, youth are defined as individuals below 25. So that's what we used as our base. Next slide. So why did we conduct this study for youth? We specifically, Taruna designed this for Youth in Evaluation Week. And this was a collaboration between EES and APEA, so coming from two different regions, and it was a unique collaboration to do this literature review. So the objective of the study was to identify examples of how youth have been involved in the monitoring and evaluation cycle. As Hasiti mentioned earlier, we looked at publications for about in time frame of 20 years. And based on the MNE cycle, we looked at 10 case studies for designing and planning, 2 case studies for monitoring, and 15 case studies for evaluation. Through this study, we identified and summarized successful youth participatory initiatives, and we looked at how discussing why youth were involved and some of the advantages and disadvantages and key learnings as well. So we will share this during the presentation. And we hope that through this research will be used to inform evaluation commissioners and practitioners about the realities surrounding meaningful youth participation. So next slide. Moving forward, I would like now to welcome and introduce Raquel, my colleague who worked with us on this study. Raquel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Randika. That was a nice introduction. Okay, so now we are going to go to the main topic of this presentation, that is what we consider authentic youth participation in monitoring and evaluation cycle. So because we are talking about participation, we are not just going to be sitting down in our seats and looking at the screen. We are going to ask you to be active and to participate through the chat. We will have opportunity to ask questions directly at the end of the session, but now we are going to ask you just to type in the chat, okay? And because even if you are connected through a mobile phone, through a mobile device, you can still write in the chat when we are going to ask some questions, okay? So to learn what is authentic youth participatory evaluation, it's interesting to look at some practical examples. And I'm going to present three very short case examples where we are going to discuss what is and what is not youth participatory evaluation. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the first case study is a fictional case. Okay, so we have here summative evaluation. Okay, and it's about a program of it's an environmental protection program in a district in Tanzania. And this is conducted by a senior evaluator and a young emergent evaluator. Okay, that's the whole information I'm going to give you about this case example. We can go to the next slide. And we can see, I'm going to ask you the question, do you think this is an example of youth participatory evaluation, of authentic youth participation in an evaluation? So please now use the chat and then write yes or no. What do you think? Is it a yes or it is a no? Okay, we are going to give like maybe 30 seconds and our moderator is going to read the answers.
So far, everyone is saying no. Okay, we have one yes from Lucky. And yeah, I would say a majority is saying no.
No. Okay, perfect. So the answer is yes, is no, because an evaluation conducted by an emergent youth evaluator is not necessarily a youth participatory evaluation. Youth participatory evaluation involves youth in the evaluation, youth that are part of the stakeholders or they have a shared life experience in the program. Okay, so we are in the correct direction. So let's go to the next slide and let's check. The next slide, please. Yes, and then we can see another case study. This is a real case that we found in the monitoring step of the M&E cycle, and it's called participatory as can be. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The previous one, please. Yeah, that's that one. Okay, so here, this is a program that was testing a curriculum in sexual and reproductive health, okay, in some schools in some countries in Africa. And they decided to do a monitoring process, and they used some questionnaires, and they involved students and teachers filling those questionnaires. So they use the information there and they add it in the report. So please, next slide. Okay, no, the previous one, please. Okay, so now, yeah. So do you think, please, you can add in the chat, do you think this is a case of youth participatory evaluation? You can say yes or no, and now we are going to ask you to provide just one idea of why do you think it is or it is not a youth participatory evaluation.
Okay, so everyone is saying no, but let's see, are there any reasons that they're saying? Okay, Manon is saying no, decision making by youth on method used and contents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and George is saying no. Manon, you can describe your answer a bit. Okay, Elena is telling no, they did not participate in the development of the questionnaire, etc.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I think we have like some people here, some audience that they already know about youth participatory evaluation, which is great. That's why they are here. So we can go to the next slide, please. And the next one. Okay, and then we can see that the evaluation was using youth as informants, okay? And in data collection methods, which doesn't mean real youth involvement, okay? We need active agents in this M&A cycle step, not just data informants. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, and this is the third case. It's also a real example, and it's an evaluation of an intervention program. Okay, and we can go to the next slide. And it's a program located in the US that serves youth who have been expelled from public schools. And they decided to do an evaluation of this program. The program was using youth as mentors. So they were peer mentors in the program. And then youth were involved in the evaluation in the focus groups. So they did focus group discussions and they involved them like that. Okay, what do you think? Is this a case of youth participatory evaluation or not, and why? If you can provide the why, like you can give an idea of why, that would be really helpful. You can go to the next slide.
They're saying yes. Raquel. So
okay, mostly they are saying yes. Okay.
Yeah, and they say yes.
And
Create
why?
opportunities for you to contribute their knowledge. I'm sorry. Okay, wait. Okay, we have a few responses. So Cecilia is telling youths engaged in preparation of FGDs and mentors too. So they are fully participated. Then Elena is saying yes, it is. Youth was able to participate in the design and implementation. Okay, we have a different answer. Menon is saying no, because youth was not involved in designing the method. No had a say on the evaluation process. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
there are a lot of answers coming up. Do you want me to read out more answers?
You can read maybe two more.
Okay. And then Isaac is saying, yes, youth were given an opportunity to contribute by being mentors. And then Julia is saying, yes, because youth are in every step. And Deepani is saying, create opportunities for you to contribute their knowledge. So yes.
Okay, fine. We can move to the next slide. Okay, so here we have said that the youth, they were part of the program as peer mentors. And we have said that in the evaluation, youth were involved in the focus group discussions, not that they were involved in each stage of the evaluation. Okay, so here we have to mention something that it creates a little bit of confusion. And if the program is, it has used participatory methodologies to involve youth, it's not necessarily youth participatory evaluation, because this involvement needs to be extended, needs to be included in the evaluation. Okay, and to use youth in focus group discussions, it needs to be seen how the recommendations are taken into account, how they are involved, because maybe just the data is collected and is just included in the report. Okay, fine. So that will be the last key messages from the case examples, and we can move to the next slide. Okay, fine. So we are going to define now, we are going to give a provisory definition, because of course they are like big authors that they have been working for youth participatory evaluation, as Chekoway, as Sabo Flores, and we have to acknowledge them like from all the works, and they are like reference authors in the literature about that. Well, we wanted to say that meaningful or authentic youth participatory evaluation refers to the active involvement of young people in decision-making processes that affects their lives and communities. It is a process that empowers young people to have a voice and influence in matters that concern them. Authentic youth participation, requires that young people have access to relevant information, they feel capable of coping with the challenges presented, and also they have opportunity to participate in a safe and respectful environment. So youth participation in evaluation efforts can lead to positive changes in organizational practices and increase positive impacts on youth and communities. We have to again remind the first slide that we introduced with, that was mentioning that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child requires that children's views are considered in any policy arena, and in which children are directly affected, not to their token or passive presence in adult agencies. Okay, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so how we build our theoretical framework. This we are presenting this here, but we are really missing our lead director of the study, which is Taruna Gupta, who couldn't participate in the webinar. And she reviewed more than 40 theoretical frameworks for youth participation that they have been developed in the last 30 years. And then we built a theoretical framework that we are not going to present today, but we are just going to present the basics for understanding which is the ladder for youth participatory evaluation. Okay, so we can move to the next slide. And I'm sure many of you already know this ladder, which is Roger Hart's ladder of participation. And we have also included in the slide Pretty's typology of participation. Okay, and we can look at the two at the same time, but for time constraints, we will just focus on the Hart's ladder. Okay, so I don't know if you can see very clearly. So we have 8 steps in that ladder. I think maybe you can see what is written inside each step. And we can go to the first, second, and third step, which says on the side, no participation, okay? That is manipulation, decoration, and tokenism. So we will not consider that a participation, because of course, manipulation is when adults use children to support causes and pretend that the causes are inspired by children. Then decoration is when they are used, is where young people are used to help or bolster a cause in a relatively indirect way, although adults do not pretend that the cause is inspired by children. Okay, and then the third step of the ladder is tokenism, and is where young people appear to be given a voice, but in fact they have little or they have no choice about what they do or how they participate. So to do our literature review for authentic or meaningful cases of real youth participatory evaluation, we've focused in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th step of the ladder, which are including assigned but informed, consulted, uninformed, adult initiated, their decision with children, child initiated, undirected, and then child-initiated shared decisions with adults. Of course, the top step is the one that we have to look for, is like the idea, and then the others are the less, no, like in a ladder. And that's why the image is a ladder, of course. And child-initiated and shared decisions with adults is when projects or programs are initiated by children or by youth, and then decision-making is shared among children and adults, okay? So these projects, they empower children while at the same time enabling them to access and learn from the life experience and expertise of adults, okay? So we are going to go into more detail about that through some case examples, okay? But now we want to discuss, we want also to give voice for not to be like just for, I'm speaking all the time, okay? And I want to give I want to pass the turn to my colleague Randika and move to the next slide.
Thank you, Raquel, and thank you for your presentation and those cases. So now I would like to ask our audience to respond to this question on the slide. What do you think are the obstacles to authentic youth participation? We would like to hear some of your views, so please post it on the chat. I'll give you about a minute if y'all can start posting now, and then we'll share some of the findings from our study that we found from the literature review, some of the obstacles. So what do you think are the obstacles to authentic youth participation?
Okay, shall I?
So we
Go
have
ahead.
Uma. Go ahead, Hasit. Go ahead, Hasit.
Okay. So we have Uma saying, okay. Sorry, I've been getting some messages from the production team. So Uma is saying age discrimination, and then Manon is saying we have lack of trust in youth that they can take informed decision. Okay, and we have Professor J. Kennedy saying finance social norms are for the girls to participate. And we have Baraka saying limited knowledge in M&E, and again, it takes extra efforts to mobilize youth, put in place safeguarding, and legal, informed consent, etc., resources, agencies, practices. Then we have Aremu telling lack of informed knowledge. Yes, then Tashi is saying evaluation commissioners do not trust young evaluators who are new into the field. And lack of financial resources and capacities again. We have few responses on lack of resources. Yeah, that's it, Randika, as a summary.
Okay, thank you. And some of your responses were great based on some of the findings we have seen, and like what you all mentioned, lack of resources, lack of capacity, and then in terms of age, class, and social norms in terms of for girls, are certain things that we found in our study. So I will explain some of the things based on the literature that came out. So in terms of the obstacles facing in order to achieve authentic youth participation, one is youth are often mobilized to further someone else's agenda rather than being incorporated into decision-making structures. Also, adolescents have been engaged as subjects, respondents, and informants in research, but not as resources or partners, i.e. like data collectors, evaluation designers, or developing policies and programs. And also young people's knowledge and understandings are often undervalued or dismissed as invalid. Only a small fraction of the youth population is aware of research as a form of participation, and fewer still have resources to take action of this type. And like we had one of our audience mention, young people are not normally at the table in adult groups, distinguished by class, race, gender, and other characteristics. And in terms of the gender perspective, there's a lack of confidence among young girls to compete with their male counterparts. This was found according to Kamara and Savary in their study. Cultural barriers prevent young girls from holding governance positions. This lack of representation can hinder the participation of young girls in the decision-making process. And another obstacle, I think most of you all also mentioned, is authentic participation is the lack of skills and experience. Young people need to feel that they have the necessary skills to cope with the challenges of participation projects in terms of the capacity building. And I think majority of you mentioned this point that we have found in our studies, the lack of resources and access to information can also hinder the authentic youth participation. In some cases, young people may not have access to necessary resources, such as technology or transportation, to participate in decision-making process. Additionally, the lack of information about decision-making process can prevent young people from participation effectively. So these are some of the obstacles we found, and I think you all also gave us similar responses. So now let's move on to our next question that we have. So now let's look at what are the advantages of authentic youth participation. If y'all can take a minute and put down some in the chat, and after that I will explain some of our findings from the literature that we did. So there are advantages of authentic youth participation. So what do you think are some of the advantages of youth participating in evaluation in many studies? So Hasiti, over to you.
Okay, yeah. So we have one response saying more responsiveness to the needs of youth, outreach to other youth, saying Manon. Okay, we do have those two responses as for now. Do we have any? Okay, it's Mukami. So Kennedy is saying more energetic, and Anthony is saying free flow of technology and financial resources. Then we have participation is a form of empowerment of youth. Lakshman Ariel is saying promotes efficiency, accountability, transparency, and ownership. Sabrita saying new ideas. Then we have sustainability of the decision reached, increased diversity. Deepani is saying evaluation findings are relevant and meaningful to young people. So those are the responses run. Okay, we have more coming. Increases project sustainability, again sustainability, and create new generation of competent evaluators. Do we have any more responses? Okay, youth empowerment is enhanced. Again, Umo is saying, Isaac is saying capacity building, you can develop valuable skills. Barkas keep them informed. Yeah, those are the responses. Randika, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Hasiti, and our audience for being very engaged and giving us good responses that we see also come out from the literature. In terms of the capacity building and empowering youth, and also the importance of getting them involved in studies to build their competency, and since we need a new generation of competent evaluators as well to take the profession forward. So let me explain some of the findings from our study. So there are several advantages to authentic youth participation. So youth participation serves primarily as a method for strengthening groups, projects, and organizations. Authentic youth participation can raise young people's consciousness and spirit and move them into action. So according to a study done by Chekovi and Richards and Schuster, when young people define their own problems and design their own age-appropriate methods, it can help them to feel empowered and motivated to take action. This can lead to greater sense of ownership and investment in the outcome of the project. We saw some of our respondents mention that about ownership and empowerment. And another advantage is that authentic youth participation, it can help to challenge the power hierarchies that exist between adults and young people. According to a study done by Gijong and Love, youth oppression maintains unequal and hierarchical relationship between adults and youth. By involving young people in decision-making process, it can help to break down these power structures and create a more equitable and inclusive environment. So the power hierarchies. And then also authentic youth participation has the potential to position young people as valuable contributors of knowledge that is not available to adults. And in terms of our findings, also we found that authentic youth participation can help to build stronger relationships between young people and adults, according to a study done by Seldin et al. Involving young people in decision-making process can help to create youth-adult partnerships. This can lead to greater trust and respect between young people and adults and can help to create more collaborative and supportive environment. And finally, youth participation in research and evaluation can lead to increased self-confidence, peer support, and sense of empowerment. It can also contribute to strengthening youth's capacity and help them view research as a tool for changing reality. So I think these are some of the things also you all mentioned, and these are some of the main things we found from our study. So now moving forward, next slide, please. So now I will pass it on to my colleague, Raquel. Raquel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Randika. All right, so we have seen what are the obstacles and the advantages of youth participatory evaluation. And now I wanted to step back a little bit and then to see how were youth involved in the cases that we selected in our literature review. And I again added in this slide the case studies that they were selected for the literature review. And you might be wondering, it's like a very small amount of cases, only 10 case studies for design and planning, 2 case studies for monitoring, 15 case studies for evaluation. Actually, for those who have done literature review before, they might know that literature review requires a huge amount of time. And we were a big team. We were like a big team of 13 co-researchers. And then we took like 3 months to do this study, and we were selecting and then peer reviewing and then using or inclusion and exclusion criteria to select, oh, is this a case for real authentic youth participatory evaluation or not? And then we remain with this small amount. Okay, and we have divided them for steps of the M&E cycle, but now we are going to present 1 case study for design and monitoring, 1 case study for monitoring, and 2 case studies for evaluation that are good to understand what has brought us here. But before, I wanted to just review very quickly. We can move to the next slide, please. The evaluation cycle, okay? Because you were already mentioning in the 3rd question that the youth were already involved in some of the steps of the evaluation cycle. Okay, for those who have don't have so fresh, which are the main steps of the evaluation cycle. Of course there are more steps, and there are more steps also in the M&E cycle, but we have just summarized them just to give to make it a little bit easier for this presentation. Okay, so we are going to focus here after engaging stakeholders that will be youth in our case. The first step is describe the program, then focus evaluation design, and then we move forward to data collection after developing and testing or data collection tools. And after data collection, we move to data analysis. Of course, if we have done qualitative data collection, we start the data analysis while we are still collecting data. If we do quantitative data collection, we have to finalize the phase of data collection. If we use a mixed method design, we can combine, and then we are moving to reporting. And then after reporting, dissemination of results and ensuring use. So let's have these steps in mind to see the case examples, how they were involving youth in the evaluation. Okay, we can move to the next slide, please. All right. Okay, so this is the first case example that we selected to present for the step of program design and planning. Okay, this is a case study called "Our Time to Be Heard: Youth Poverty Forums and Participatory Video." You have the information there, and this is a study. This is a very interesting study because they use participatory video, and as we might see later, these participatory methods are really important for authentic youth participatory evaluation. Okay, and this was a program implemented in Liberia. Okay, so which aim to empower citizens through participatory approaches like participatory video. Okay, so what did they do? You can move to the next slide, please. And that will be a little bit more appealing, because then we don't have a box and we have some nice drawings representing which were the steps for involving the community and the youth. Okay, so we can see the first step that they have drawn in this case, in this paper. It was that the community got together and discussed which were the problems that they wanted to focus in the film, in the participatory video. So they did some problem identification through 3 analyses, which are explaining the causes and effects of impact. And then the community appointed youth as the leading role for the participatory video. So they went, they went to training in filmmaking and how to use the video equipment, because as we have seen, capacity building is one of the main pillars for participation in evaluation, not only for youth, but also for adults. No, participatory evaluation always involves capacity building. So then the participatory video team then discussed, in the third step, they discussed what they wanted to capture. And then they went into the community and they captured footage. No, they did, like, they captured raw film material. Then before editing, they went to the community again, and then they play back all the footage that they had taken. And then in a participatory way, they decided what they wanted to introduce in the final film. So it was not only the youth, it was also the community themselves that they decided what it was going to be about. Okay, and in this case, it was like they wanted to have a school, so they focused on that. So when they had finally the film, they asked the community leaders and the government officials to come, and they presented the participatory video already edited. And those officials, they committed themselves to provide a school for the community. Okay, and they realized that participatory video process, that now that they had the skills, they were able to use it for future advocacy, for monitoring how the school was going to be built, and to monitor also for all the commitments. Okay, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so we have here a case that we found in monitoring. You remember that we have only like 2 papers, 2 journal articles, or like a real literature in monitoring. And this is a study called Girl-Led Monitoring and Evaluation, an approach to empowering girls. So this is also a very interesting study because they use photo voice, the photo voice method. I don't know if many of you have already get to know this method, but it's a really very interesting method for use a participatory approach. And okay, so to focus on the program, how youth were involved in the program. This was a program for for girls to access education in Sierra Leone. And then for the monitoring process, they engaged some girls of two schools, of the schools that they were being beneficiaries of the project. And they used the photo-based methods to involve those youth. They trained them and they went into the community to capture photos and illustrate their personal stories. And as some of you might already know, Photo Voice is putting on, like, it thinks that the people in the community are experts. So they give all the voice to the people who are participating, okay? And there are some methods to analyze which is being captured. It's not just like to take photos and present them. It's taking photos and understanding the message that is in this photo. What is the problem that has been identified, or what is the thing that has been identified? But here they use a very nice approach. And instead of each girl telling the story of the photo, they put them together, and in a participatory way, they discussed. And then after using thematic analysis, they analyzed which were the themes that they were raising, okay? And then they use also like the video also to film a short storytelling and presented what was the meaning behind those photos and which were the problems identified, okay? And then, of course, we have to remember the steps of the evaluation cycle. It was not just like for data collection and for data analysis that they were involved. They were also involved in the reporting, in this case, like filming, and they were also involved at the dissemination of results. And that stage, it's really important. So we can see that they were really empowered through the presentation of these final outcomes in a final ceremony with all the community, okay? Yeah, so then we can move to the next slide, okay? And then we have here, I hope you're not falling asleep, because it's me only the one who I'm talking, and I'm used like to have more interactive way. But we have here the third case example. Now we are moving to the M&E step cycle of evaluation, okay? So now we have moved to the evaluation step cycle in M&E. So this is a very interesting case example that is called, the title of this journal article is called Youth Participation in Evaluation, the Promenino Program in Brazil. And this evaluation was conducted in Brazil, as it says in the title. And the program itself, it was it was an educational program for youth who had been ex-criminal offenders, okay? And so for the evaluation of this program that had been implemented in Sao Paulo state, they choose to also select, to do like a very strict recruitment of youth who had been beneficiaries, recipients of the program, and who had been ex-criminal offenders. And they were recruited, okay? And then they were involved in the several stages of evaluation. They were involved in some data collection, for contacting, organizing, and conducting interviews. They were involved also in data analysis, okay? And then they had the autonomy of presenting the results of the data analysis in their own way and their own style to key stakeholders, okay? They also did like a final dissemination event with the donor of the evaluation, but to all the facilitators, to all the educators in the different organizations that they were implementing this program, they had the freedom to select which was the idea, like how are they going to present it, okay? And of course, during this process, they always had the support of monitors to follow up. And they were also supported financially and with other resources. And as we have said, no, the evaluation process followed rigorous procedures of checking ups to keep the quality of the study. Yeah, and then I will mention something later about this study. And then we can move to the other slides to present the last example of this literature review. Okay, and this is an example of a book authored by Fetterman, Katlari, Abraham, Wandersman. As many of you might know, Fetterman is was the reference person for the creation of empowerment evaluation. Okay, and in this book they have a case study that was with youth of fourth and fifth grade, which is really rare because we have found like many studies that they have used youth, but usually they are mostly teenagers, no? So it's really difficult to involve also younger ages. So you can imagine fourth and fifth grade are children from 9 years old to 10 years old. Okay, but as they show in the evaluation, that was not a challenge. It was actually something that provided so many advantages in the evaluation. So we can see here, this is a program that it was started in a school. Okay, it was an after-school program, and it had like this. It's not only about evaluation. It had also like the different steps of the cycle, because it was also like about designing the intervention, implementing it, and then evaluating the intervention. So in the first phase, for identifying the problem or the intervention, they use as well the photo voice technique that we have mentioned in the other study. And then the intervention, they decided to create a mural, okay, a mural for the school. And then after they created the mural, they decided they want to do the evaluation of this. And the students that they were part of the school after school program, they were trained in data collection methods, and they decided by themselves, with the support of the evaluator facilitators, because they were calling themselves facilitators, they decided to use focus group discussions, okay, with the students of the school to see if the mural was a good intervention or not. So these same students of fourth and fifth grade, they were trained in facilitating the focus group discussion and conducting. So they were themselves, without any adult support in the focus group, that they were conducted the focus groups. Okay, and for the results, they decided, oh, we have to do a second mural based on their findings, no? So we have to do a second mural. And they did a second mural as a second part of the intervention. And then after that, they did a second evaluation. So it's a very nice study. And they decided that because they wanted to have all the general views of all the school, they wanted to use a survey. So they wanted to use a quantitative analysis tool. So sorry, quantitative data collection tool. Oh, it's almost the time. I'm like getting so long.
Yes, Raquel,
Yeah.
we have only like
5 minutes
2 to 3
over.
minutes left.
Yes.
Yeah,
So let me
please.
just wrap up. Okay, so the thing is that they use quantitative data analysis and they did it by themselves. Okay. So the program empowers students to take charge of the entire process. Okay, we can move to the next slide. And then this was like some summary of the key findings of what we have already been spoken about, the advantages and of authentic youth participatory evaluation. And we also wanted to present some of the challenges, but I think we can go to slide 36, please, like major themes in practice. Okay. Yeah, it takes time to present all these studies, isn't it? And we can say that major themes in practice to enable authentic youth participatory evaluation is, as you can see here, highlighted in red, no? Is capacity development, as we have mentioned, you have already mentioned, and something that maybe sometimes is forgotten are the resources and the means for those students, for those children, for those youth who are involved, and also to respect their voice and audience, because if we don't respect their voice and audience, we are not taking into account, like you can report what is, like we can report the findings, isn't it? But if we don't use those findings, maybe that can lead to frustration. And so it's really important to give young people a voice in the research and in the evaluation process, and ensure that their perspectives are heard and valued. Okay, so maybe we can reach to an end and we can leave some time for questions and answers.
Okay. I think we have only 2 minutes left. So let me go for one question. So Trang is asking for the evaluation assist criminal offender adolescents who were interviewees, if the beneficiaries arranged. Okay, it's a bit complicated. Okay. Let me, yeah. For the evaluation assist criminal offenders adolescents who were interviewees, if the beneficiaries arranged and conducted interviews as well as analyzed and wrote report. And the second question she's asking is how to eliminate conflicts and bias when the beneficiaries did not do steps.
When the beneficiaries didn't do steps. Okay, let me go for the first question. Okay, this was one of the main benefits of that study that is highlighted there is that they were not, the evaluation itself, they couldn't manage to get honest answers of the beneficiaries of the programs if they have already reoffended after they had finished the educational program, which was like an alternative educational program compared to other educational programs in Brazil for youth ex-criminal offenders. So through involving youth in the evaluation, the same beneficiaries of the program, they had this huge advantage, okay, of having honest answers, okay? They were providing honest answers to them because themselves, they were contacting those beneficiaries, those peers that they had been in the program, and then they were contacting them and asking them directly. So it was like a peer-to-peer interview. Of course, they had received training and they knew what they wanted to know, but it was like a peer-to-peer interview. Yeah, and the second question, can you repeat, please?
The second question is how to eliminate conflicts and bias when the beneficiaries did not do steps.
Did not what?
Did not, I think, do those steps.
Did the steps? Okay.
Yeah, did this.
Okay. So one of the limitations of participation is that how many people you have the resources to involve in the participatory process. So you have to see the feasibility of doing a participatory process based on the resources that you have. And of course, an authentic youth participatory evaluation cannot involve all the beneficiaries of the project as much as those who maybe are selected to be as co-researchers or are being part for giving their input. Okay, so this needs to be like a participatory process which engages and gives the opportunity for those key stakeholders to participate.
Thank you, Raquel, and thank you, Randika, for that impressive presentation, I would say. So I'm not going to follow up with any more questions because we are on dot now. It's 7:30. So before everyone's leaving, we would like to actually, the production team wants to take a group photo to celebrate this moment. So I invite all of you to open up your cameras and join us for the group picture. So production team, please let us know once you're done. So everyone say cheese. Thank you. Few seconds for that.
Okay, requesting everyone to open your camera if possible and stay like 1 minute. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the slides, please. May I have the slides, please? Okay. Next slide, Leah. Okay. So I'm not going to give a vote of thanks since we are like over the time. Next slide, Leah. I just briefly mentioned we thank all the research team who were like constantly working on this for 3 months. We had a huge research team, and we have to mention our lead, even though she's not here, Taruna Gupta. And also Raquel, Ling, Ramdika, thank you very much for taking the lead. And then Leah, Madhuka, Amanda, Christina, Tashi, everyone for supporting this. And of course, Dorothy Albianto for communications. And today we have Ishika Bansal and Punya Dangale from ETC Hub supporting us with the production and communications. So we hope this research will be used to inform commissioners and practitioners about the realities surrounding meaningful youth participation. That is our, as team, our main message and our main goal. So with that, we are closing the platform. And if you have any more questions for us, for our research team, please feel free to reach out with these email addresses, or you can follow EES, European Evaluation Society, or APEA in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out. So with that, we are closing the platform, and thank you everyone for joining and being an amazing audience. Thank you.